Welcome to this forum for general election candidates for Tacoma City Council at large position 7. There are 4 council positions up for election this year. 2 representing districts, 1 and 3 this year, and 2 of the at-large seats. All are 4-year terms. The at-large positions are elected by and represent all the residents of Tacoma. The candidates are, in ballot order, Conor McCarthy and Courtney Love. Welcome and thank you for being here. The timekeeper is Susan Eidenschink. She will enforce all of the timing rules so that each candidate is given the same amount of time to answer all of the same questions. The questions will be asked by and have been prepared by members of the Community and Neighborhood Councils of Tacoma and the League of Women Voters. Each candidate now gets up to 1 minute for an opening statement. We begin with Conor McCarthy.
Thank you. My name is Conor McCarthy, and I'm grateful to serve on the City Council, and I'm running because I love my city, and I want to continue to make Tacoma an extraordinary place to raise a family, to get an education, to build a career and retire. I'm proud of the Council's many accomplishments over the past 4 years, which I've been able to be a part of. But we have more work to do, and it'd be my privilege to continue to serve you. As your council member, it's my job to fight for you. On the council, I've fought to restore the city's police and fire departments, invest in safe routes to school so that all Tacoma children can get to and from school safely, and fix our streets with more than 1,600 blocks completed in just the past few years alone. We still have much more work to do to grow more living wage jobs in our community, address homelessness, increase affordable housing, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I believe Tacoma's future is in our hands and that we must set the table for our children by working together in earnest to build a brighter destiny.
Thank you. Courtney Love.
Hello, my name is Courtney Love. I'm running for Tacoma City Council, position 7, and I'm excited to be here. It is important for us to refocus our direction to a people-centered and environmental-centered pathway. I look forward to bringing that voice to the council. We have a need for housing security and food security and healthcare security. We need to preserve American democracy with election reform and getting money out of politics. And we need to work on establishing a green transition for our economy and looking to increase urban farming options as well to the benefit of all citizens, especially those who are disadvantaged. Thank you.
Thank you. We move on to questions. The questions will be asked by Marty Webb of the League of Women Voters and Tom Ebenho of Community Council of Tacoma. If I don't specify otherwise, you will get 60 seconds to answer, and the order of answering will rotate with each question. Therefore, Courtney Love will answer the first question first, and Marty Webb will ask the question.
What is the greatest issue facing the city of Tacoma that the City Council can address? How should the council address it? And what will you do personally if elected?
I think the greatest issue facing all jurisdictions is climate change. It impacts housing, and it impacts food, and it impacts healthcare. And the best thing we can do as a city council is to ensure that the businesses that we invite and welcome into our city are ecologically sound, and we can increase housing and the food security of Tacoma very easily through city council action. Thank you.
Thank you. Conor McCarthy.
The greatest challenge facing our city right now is the increase in homelessness, the increase in number of people who are unhoused, and the lack of affordable housing. So what have we been doing at the city for over the last couple of years? We declared a state of emergency in homelessness. We invested millions of dollars into a site that provides not just a place to sleep, but that also provides day-to-day case management that helps individuals transition from the stability site into permanent supportive housing. We are short on capacity, not just that at that site, but at shelters across the city, and that's why we've done things such as partnering with the rescue mission to add 50 more beds coming up in just the next several months. Moving forward, we have to do a better job partnering with our nonprofit community, our faith-based community, and at the city, we need to find some more sites where we can continue to make sure, particularly during the winter, that people have a warm place to sleep. In doing so, we need to make sure that we continue our hand-up approach where we hold folks accountable for making sure that they're helping to improve their lives with us.
Thank you. Tom Evenhoe will ask the next question, and Conor McCarthy will answer it first.
Good afternoon. What should the City Council do to promote family wage jobs within the city?
Well, one of the things we need to do is make sure that in terms of the businesses that are operating in our community, many small businesses, that we're supporting them, that we're making sure that they have the infrastructure they need around their businesses so that they can be successful, that we're making sure that the regulations and other burdens that we place on businesses are reasonable, and that we're helping them as they help us provide critical services to our community through the payment of their B&O tax, that we're helping them in making sure we continue to invest in the in communities where people will come and want to use their businesses. Second thing we need to do is we really need to get better at recruiting businesses to our community. Washington State has been in a boom, aerospace and technology, but most of the jobs are on the east side, up north, 40,000 people a day leaving Pierce County. So we've got to do better at attracting those good living wage employers to our community.
Thank you. Courtney Love.
Yes, thank you. I think one of the first things we need is a public bank to encourage small business loans and entrepreneurial opportunity. We need to support our small businesses with equitable tax burdens, and we need to increase trade schools to encourage skilled and craft jobs, and increase educational opportunities in all areas, not just trade and not just technology. And yes, thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be asked by Marty Webb, and Courtney Love will answer first.
Should the city of Tacoma be following the lead of some other municipalities and impose taxes on the sales of guns and ammunition? If so, how should the funds be used? If not, why not?
I'd like, off the top, no, because I want to see how that's impacted crime. If it has actually made an impact on reducing crime, then I can support it. But otherwise, I think it just puts an unfair burden on consumers and business owners.
Thank you. Conor McCarthy.
Yeah, well, the only other jurisdiction I'm aware of this moment in Washington State is Seattle, and they haven't raised that much money with that tax. And to my colleague's point, it's questionable whether or not they've been able to really use those funds to reduce gun violence in their community. So that's something at the City Council we're evaluating right now. My understanding is we could raise potentially about $30,000 a year if we impose a similar tax. That's not a lot of money in terms of government money, but what's more important is what are we doing with our partners to reduce gun violence in our community. We've had an uptick in gun violent and violent crime over the last several months. We have a police department that's focusing it through set missions where they're focusing on the crime, but we also have a stronger community partnership with groups such as the Ceasefire Group to figure out ways and programs that the city government can support in terms of mentorship, et cetera, to help drive down gun violence, particularly among young people. So it's one thing, it's one of many of the tools we should consider, but I'm not sold on it at this point.
Thank you. Tom Evenhoe, please direct your next question to Conor McCarthy first.
The City Council recently outlawed tents in the parks. What should the city do to address the homelessness crisis?
Yeah, so we need to do more of what we've been doing, and by more I mean we need to work with our partners and come up with some more safe, sanitary locations where the unhoused can sleep, and we're short. So we're lacking the capacity right now, both at the city stability side and through the partner shelter facilities. So we need some more spaces. Second to that, in particular with respect to the parks, we need to enforce the rules we put on the books. 2 years ago, we passed an ordinance that said you couldn't camp in public places, but the second more important thing we passed was the funding to stand up a stability site. So the idea is we need to help people with a hand up, with a safe place to sleep, but we need to make sure at the same time that we don't have the unnecessary health and safety issues that come along with sleeping in parks. For example, when you put things like a lot of feces and trash in the parks, it's not healthy, not only for the individuals who sleep there, but for the people and families who enjoy the parks.
Thank you. Courtney Love.
Yes, until we have an alternate safe space, I don't think this is an ethical answer. I would offer that if there is an empty space, an empty lot, that the city provide legal protection to the owners of the lot, or even radically take ownership of it in order to provide a safe space for campers, and sanitation services, trash bins, and the like. They are our neighbors, they are citizens, and they are taxpayers, and they deserve respect and safety. And so we can do, at the very least, provide safe space for these people to reside, even with the least convenience, the little convenience they have. But at this rate, we're criminalizing poverty.
Thank you. Marty, your question goes to Courtney Love.
The city council, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong question here. Residential rents are increasing dramatically. What should the city do to address the need for affordable housing?
I'd like to see some community land trusts develop. I do think we need rent control. I understand that we have a state ban on it, so it'll take effort beyond the city. But as city council members, we can do a lot to rally votes at the state level for that. We have tenant unions that I suggest all renters join. We need penalties for violations by landlords and rental agencies. We need just cause eviction and right of first return. If you have to leave your home for renovation, you should have a right to return to it. And if you have to be relocated, it should be within the jurisdiction that you are currently residing in.
Thank you. Conor McCarthy.
Thank you. So we know we have an affordable housing crisis, and that we call it a crisis because we have one of the hottest rental markets in the United States of America. Meanwhile, incomes have stagnated, and we have a group of people who are moving here and displacing particularly low-income tenants. We have about 80,000 households in Tacoma. Half of them rent, half of them own. If you own, this type of rental market might provide a boon for your family. If you rent, you might find yourself at risk of displacement, and with rising rents and income stagnating, you might find yourself, unfortunately, in your vehicle or at one of our shelters. So what have we done? What we've done is we've established affordable housing action strategy that isn't just a strategy, that actually funds and has set up a trust fund that is going to leverage the construction of new affordable housing. We have putting millions of dollars a year towards programs and through our partners like the Tacoma Housing Authority to build more affordable housing. Look, the scale of the lack of affordable housing in our community right now is staggering. So it's all hands on deck. We're doing the best we can with the resources we have.
Thank you. Tom Ivanhoe, your question goes to Conor McCarthy first.
Residents are concerned about perceived increases in both violent crime and property crime. Mm-hmm. Are you satisfied with the current level of service of our police department, and what, if any, changes would you support?
Sure. So over the last 3.5 years at City Council, one of the things I learned really when I got on the council was how great the shortage of police officers we have in the city of Tacoma compared with where we used to be, despite the fact we're a growing city. So what we've done over the last we budget every 2 years, but in the mid-biennium, we pass mid-biennium budgets, is add more and more police officers. So one of the things we need to do is add another patrol, at least enough police officers to add to another patrol staff throughout the day. There's just frankly not enough people patrolling. The other thing we need to do is work with our partners like Safe Streets, I'm proud to serve on the board of, to make sure we up our game in terms of community organizing and community policing, so that we're not trying to create some sort of militant environment. What we're trying to do is bring neighborhoods together to help solve problems in neighborhoods. So more police officers, which I've funded the last few years, and more support of our community policing efforts.
Thank you. Courtney Love.
I don't necessarily think that more police officers equal more safety. I think the best way to reduce crime is to reduce desperation, and we do that through housing security, food security, and healthcare security. I want to see a change in the policing culture. Community policing is an option for that. We definitely need to demilitarize our police and put body cameras on all of them. And so those are the changes to our policing. I'm not opposed to more police as long as it's in proportion to the efforts we take in reducing desperation, the cause of crime. My mother worked for Safe Streets starting in 1989. I was 12 years old. We spent years doing it, and it doesn't feel like they solved the problem. It felt like they just shifted the problem into other neighborhoods. So I'm about solving the problem that leads to drug and violence, and not about oppression and punishment for being desperate.
Thank you. The next question goes to Courtney Love first, and Marty will ask it.
What is your understanding of the property tax abatement available to developers of multifamily residential projects? Should it continue in its present form?
I don't think it should continue in its present form. I think the demands for affordable housing and the level of affordable housing need to be increased. So currently it's based on much higher average American median income than I would say we need. The average service employee in Tacoma is at 42% average median income, but the housing is being built at much higher median incomes. Pardon. So either eliminate the tax abatements or make the demands on qualifying for them higher. We need to house the least among us, and also the average citizen, and we're not doing that.
Thank you. Conor McCarthy.
So sure, we have a housing supply problem. I mentioned earlier an affordable housing crisis. We have a housing supply shortage in our community, and that's across the spectrums. And that affects particularly the lowest income and the most vulnerable in our community. So what we've seen over the past several years with our two multifamily tax exemptions, we have an 8-year and a 12-year. The 12-year has a requirement for some affordable housing units. The 8-year does not. What we've seen is that the 8-year multifamily tax exemption has been a good tool in not necessarily creating more affordable housing units, but increasing the stock of housing throughout our community, which we desperately need. As I said, we need housing at all levels. Our 12-year has also had some success, and we've been able to establish affordable housing units as a result of the 12-year program. Moving forward, what we discuss in our strategy is considering whether or not we really need to only offer the 12-year in certain areas of the city. In other words, are there areas of our city where rents have risen so high that we could justify getting rid of our 8-year exemption? We're not there yet, but that's what we're looking at right now.
Thank you. Next question goes to Conor McCarthy first, and Tom Ibenho will ask.
Yes. So if elected, how will you communicate with your constituents, and what community organizations will you regularly attend or participate in?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Well, I'm elected right now, and I'm trying to do my best to respond to a number of emails and the phone calls we get. I also serve on the board of Safe Streets Board. I serve on the Workforce Central Board. I serve on the board of the Tacoma Community House. So I'm out there in the community on separate nonprofit boards trying to make an impact and at least dealing with those organizations specific to the issues they're working on. So you might often see me at a Safe Streets meeting, typically on the east side or south end of Tacoma, listening and learning about the challenges that are being faced. I also try and get out to neighborhood councils about as much as possible, given the schedule, the council schedule and the board schedule and the day job. So certainly room for improvement on my part, but I try and be as accessible as possible. My phone number is all over the internet, as is my email, and I try to be as responsive as I can.
Thank you. Courtney Love.
Yes, I look forward to having tea parties. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I won't focus on coffee houses, so we'll have tea and maybe pho, because I'm a big fan of pho. And local organizations that I would be interacting with, it would include the local parties. This is a nonpartisan race, and I've always been a coalition builder, so I like to hear divergent ideas and finding ways to come together over them or between them. And also, I'm a member of Our Revolution, Washington Bernie-Kratz Coalition, and Our Revolution, Pierce County, and I'm also a member of the Democratic Party. I'm a PCO, and I'm also a member of the Tacoma Democratic Socialists of America, which have a lot of good resources and diverse solutions to offer. I also look forward to maintaining relationships with single-issue advocacy groups. We had a housing forum this morning that was quite informative, and the resources amongst the people who participate in that group regularly was amazing, and I look forward to seeing that in every issue.
Thank you. This will be the last question. Marty Webb will ask it, and Courtney Love will speak first.
What do you know about, and are you satisfied with, the current expansion plans of Sound Transit and Pierce Transit? And what other forms of transportation should the city promote?
On the surface, I'm quite pleased with the plans. As a citizen, I'm impatient with the schedule. I've been hearing mixed reviews over the rapid transit plans. There's concern that it'll disrupt the businesses of the area it's going through, much like the Link Light Rail is disrupting the Hilltop neighborhood. And so I want to make sure that the issues that the people of District 3 in the Hilltop are not replicated and are prevented with planning for the Pacific Avenue business corridor. And but I am a fan of mass transit. I would love to have a transit system that made life easy for parents. As a parent, it's really hard to think. It's a hard jump to public transit when routes are sparse, and frequency, the buses come in frequently, and the hours of operation are limited. So expansion is demanded.
Thank you. Conor McCarthy.
Yeah, so I mean, I think just let's put it in context. 70% of the emissions that we're breathing in Tacoma are coming from our vehicles, and we have to plan for and expect another 100,000+ people over the next 20 or so years. So we've got to change the way we get around our city. Not to mention we've got a lot of people who, unfortunately, because we don't have the jobs here in the community we need to have, as I think I mentioned earlier, 30,000 to 40,000 people a day leaving Pierce County. So one of the things we ought to do, and we're investing in, is transit. At the city, that means investing in the infrastructure around transit and in partnership with our partners such as Pierce Transit and Sound Transit. I think the Link Light Rail coming to the Hilltop, coming to the Medical Mile is going to be a great thing. Right now, it's a terrible thing in terms of how it's impacting some of the businesses. But if you've been to Seattle, if you've ridden their link, once we get done with this project, I think you're going to find it to be extremely beneficial. With Pierce Transit, we need another levy to go. There's not enough money to provide the level of frequency and service in this city that will really change the culture and how we move people around.
Thank you. Now each of you has up to 1 minute for closing statement, and reversing our order, Courtney Love will make the first closing statement.
Thank you for your time today. The most pressing, as I said earlier, issue, I think, is the climate crisis. We think we have a housing problem now, but the projections are that the Pacific Northwest will be the last inhabitable space in the continental United States. And so we will be looking at a crisis of climate refugees. So housing will be more critical, food, transportation, all of the issues we're currently talking about just for ourselves will be of exponential impact and demand, and we have to plan for that. In 80 years, we won't have any ice caps in the continental United States, and that's where we get most of our water. So we might have the last of the water, but it won't last long, and we have to be talking about that and planning for it now. The next 10 years is how to become carbon neutral. The next 20 years is the first, we'll be seeing the first symptoms, well, we're already seeing them, of climate refugees, but the next 100 years it could be devastating to human existence.
Thank you, Conor McCarthy.
Thank you. 3 years ago, the City of Tacoma adopted environmental action plans. Since that time, we've increased the city's tree canopy, we've invested in multiple green infrastructure projects, and we've actually reduced the carbon footprint of the city's facilities and the city's fleet. So we're working on this. I'm really proud to have sponsored a new partnership with the University of Washington, Tacoma to actually expand air monitoring in our community. So please go to your neighborhood council to learn more about how you can plug into that. Look, it's been an honor to serve you the past 4 years on the council. My vision is for a Tacoma that truly lives, breathes, and grows as a city of destiny for everyone in every neighborhood that calls Tacoma home, for good living wage jobs and economic opportunity across our city, for outstanding K-12 education and higher ed, which helps all youth succeed, for clean air, clean water, and strong environmental protection and stewardship, and for a city really and truly that celebrates our diversity as our core strength and that exemplifies, but that by working together, we will build a brighter future. I'm Conor McCarthy, and I would be honored to have your support and vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the candidates, Courtney Love and Conor McCarthy, for being here and helping you ensure that your vote is an educated one. Now, don't forget to use it. They are candidates for City of Tacoma Council at Large Position 7. I also want to thank our questioners, the Community Council of Tacoma and the League of Women Voters, the volunteers from the League of Women Voters of Tacoma-Pierce County, and the wonderful crew from TV Tacoma. The election is Tuesday, November 5th. If you're mailing the ballot, the post office recommends that you send it in early, but it must be postmarked by that date. And if you're using a drop box, you have until 8 p.m. on November 5th. But the ballots go out next week, or the ballots go out, I think, on the 18th. And drop boxes will then be open, so you can vote any time between the day after that and November 5th. But don't forget to, please. Thank you for being here or watching and making your vote count. Thank you.